Bruce Lee facts. He is considered the greatest martial artist of the 20th century. He developed his own style of martial arts called Jeet Kune Do, which means way of the intercepting fist, which is more of an idea of being flexible and practical with martial arts learning. His development of Jeet Kune Do came partially out of an incident with his school. A rival martial artist challenged him over to a duel over his decision to teach non-Chinese students. Bruce Lee accepted the challenge and won the duel, but he later thought that the fight took too long because his martial art technique was too rigid and formalistic. Thus, he decided to develop a better system with an emphasis on practicality and flexibility. Bruce weighed only 128 pounds at the time of his death. Bruce suffered a serious back injury while attempting a good morning. During his recuperation, he wrote several books on martial arts. His ancestry is German and Chinese. His father full-blooded Chinese, while his mother is of German-Chinese descent. Her father is German, her mother is Chinese. Was constantly challenged by movie extras and other men seeking to gain fame through beating him in a fight. Was sought after for instruction by established martial artists Joe Louis and Chuck Norris. Faced discrimination from other Chinese kung fu masters when trying to learn other martial arts styles. He would usually go to the number 3 or 4 man in a certain system to learn it in exchange for what he knew. Demands for his private lessons grew so high his hourly rate soared to $275 per hour. His last movie, Game of Death, was the first film to be filmed with sound, unlike most of his earlier films, which were filmed without sound and were later dubbed in by actors. Some of the lost footage was later shown in Bruce Lee: A Warrior's Journey. You can hear Bruce's own voice speaking English and Cantonese. Had he not died, his character's name in this movie would have been Hai Qian. Bruce spoke English, Cantonese, Mandarin, and Japanese. Was able to name every single karate term and perform them with dead accuracy. Bruce adopted his legendary nunchaku routine in his movies from the legendary karate master Hidehiko Ochiai. The two met at the Los Angeles YMCA in the mid-1960s. Bruce developed a trick for showing off his speed. A person would hold a coin and he would close his hand. As he closed it, Lee would take it and would even swap the coin for another. When Elvis Presley's and Ed Parker's unfinished martial arts film, New Gladiators, was found in 2003, there was 20 minutes of Bruce Lee's demonstration at a martial arts display in the mid-60s found along with it. Bruce is often honored in video games. In Mortal Kombat games, the character Liu Kang was an obvious tribute to Lee. Then in Super Street Fighter II, a character named Fei Long was introduced, also bearing incredible resemblance in both looks and fighting style to Bruce Lee. He is also copied as Kim Dragon in the game World Heroes. Last but not least, Bruce Lee is honored in Tekken as Martial Law, and honored a second time in Tekken 3 with Forest Law. His fighting style is honored in more games such as Virtua Fighter with Jackie Bryant, Dead or Alive with John Lee, and in the Soul Calibur games as Maxi. Bruce was a gang leader in his teenage years. The name of his group was known as the Tigers of Junction Street. UFC President Dana White considers Bruce Lee as the father of martial arts. Lee's combat movements were at times too fast to be captured on film at 24 frames per second, so many scenes were shot in 32 frames per second, which put Lee in slow motion when most martial arts films are sped up. Lee could perform push-ups using only his thumbs. Lee would hold an elevated V-sit position for 30 minutes or longer. Lee could throw grains of rice up into the air and then catch them in mid-flight using chopsticks. Lee performed one-handed push-ups using only his thumbs and index finger. Lee performed 50 reps of one-arm chin-ups. Lee could break wooden boards 6 inches, which is about 15 centimeters, thick. Lee could cause a 300-pound which is 136 kilograms, bag to fly towards and thump the ceiling with a sidekick. Lee performed a sidekick while training with James Coburn and broke a 150-pound, which is 68 kilograms, punching bag. In a move that has been called Dragon Flag, Lee could perform leg lifts with only his shoulder blades resting on the edge of a bench and suspend his legs and torso perfectly horizontal in midair.